The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wanted us to even come close to a chance in hell, but undoubtedly I look around and see we grow stronger than they can tell. Cause I can turn and run, but there's more that I can do. Now this is war, now this is war. No, I won't stop now.
Hello and welcome to the Wrestling to the Max WWE 205 Live review for August 1st, 2017. And I am your host, Sean Garmer, and here with me, Mr. Harry Broadhurst.
Good evening. Welcome in, everybody, once again.
So, this 205 Live actually started with an overrun from SmackDown that we detailed on the SmackDown review with Cena dropping Corbin through the table on an AA and, Nakamura getting his hand raised again. But we kind of start out this 205 Live more with the history of the Davari and Tozawa feud, because that's the big main event for this show, with it being made on Raw, with the winner gets to face Neville at SummerSlam. However, we start out with Brian Kendrick coming down to make fun of Jack Gallagher again, calling him a clown, and that he's going to get rid of Gallagher from 205 Live forever. Basically, this match doesn't really go very long because Gallagher just absolutely does not give a crap. He is pissed, and he goes right after Brian Kendrick, and he slams Kendrick into the LED board, and he gets the umbrella and makes Kendrick have to run out into the crowd to avoid Gallagher just beating him up some more. I enjoyed this DQ. I love that Gallagher got to show a just nasty, I'm pissed off side. We need that more often.
Two things. That was an out-and-out ass-kicking. And that's kind of what it needed to be after the way that, as we said, last week's Fun with Photoshop segment completely missed.
Yes, Photoshop segments in general, just horribly.
They needed to do something in order to reinvest the crowd in this particular feud, and I think tonight was an excellent way of doing that. And kudos to Corey Graves as well for putting over Gallagher the way that he did by mentioning, Kendrick's the veteran around here. Kendrick's the guy that's been around here, but let's not trifle lightly with Gallagher. Gallagher, before he became a professional wrestler, used to be a mixed martial arts fighter and is a black belt in, I think he said, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, see, that's why you need Corey Graves. He always gives you the lowdown. He gives you the important information. I love that. I love the fact that we get to find out things about Gallagher's character that perhaps you don't get from the goofy and silly stuff, but you can understand that he can definitely kick your ass if he needs to.
And then we get an exact representation of that in the match itself, where Gallagher just goes off and destroys Kendrick for the better part of a couple of minutes before, as you said, Kendrick escapes through the crowd in order to get away from the clearly enraged Gallagher.
Do you think this extends to anything outside of this feud, or is it just this feud kind of deal? Because I'd like to see Gallagher be that way more often.
I think that it's going to be a thing where once he gets into storylines where he can sink his teeth into them, like with the storyline here, like with the feud that he had with Ariya Davari, even to an extent, where progressively his opponents taking shots at him being the way that he is what causes him to bring out that badass inner Gallagher out.
Yeah, I like that. And I agree. If sometimes people thought that feud kind of went too long, but they kept building up the stipulation matches or whatever to the point where, hey, we're having an I Quit match basically here because these two really can't stand each other, and that was well done by them and well done by Gallagher here. Stop the presses, everybody. A Gran Metalik sighting on 205 Live as he reappears from his stints on Main Event to take on Tony Nese. And obviously he can't do the Swanton stuff because of Jeff Hardy being around, which I think hurts him a little bit, because that's what he does those rope walk things into. Having to kind of change that into an elbow drop could look very awkward. The drop kick one he always does, but like not being able to do that big one to the outside, I think hurts him, because that's kind of his like big signature move that we see a lot from him. Overall, though, I thought it was good him coming back, and he looked good here, sold well for Tony Nese. He really sold the ribs very well here, and Nese winds up winning after a match that felt longer than 6 minutes to me, but it was still good.
If it's any consolation, Gran Metalik will be on Main Event this week as well.
Which, legally, you can watch on Hulu if you have that. If not, there's other websites. You have to wait like a 3-week delay to watch it on the network.
No, I thought that it was a really good showcase for Tony Nese as well. I think Tony Nese is finally starting to develop a personality, and that was the biggest knock on the guy. There was no doubt that he had the look and he had the in-ring ability to back up what traditionally the WWE looks for. The unfortunate problem for Tony Nese is that Nese has always been, yawn-worthy, charisma deficient. And now
it was the same thing with Drew Gulak, right? He started out not having much of a personality, and then he's kind of developed one.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with them finally letting Drew get in touch with his old CZW character as well, though. Because Gulak, in my opinion, was at his best when he was doing the campaign for a better CZW, and now he's doing a similar way in the campaign for a better 205 Live. Whereas Tony Nese is now, he's getting to that level of that arrogant, cocky, almost overconfident heel level, and I think that that's something that you need specifically in this division because he looks so different from the rest of the cruiserweights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he looks like he could definitely be in the ring with him. I mean, him and Neville have a similar build as well.
I was going to
go ahead.
Well, yeah, you mentioned Neville there. I was going to say that if I don't mean to give away the result of the main event here, but if Tozawa does walk out of SummerSlam as the new Cruiserweight champion, I think Tony Nese would be a logical step going forward for Tozawa to feud with because of the similar body type and the fact that they've wrestled each other before on 205 Live recently.
Yeah, plus I think they would work well together, have the chemistry, both can do flying stuff, and also just to have the strong kicks and whatnot. So I would like them having a feud and having it, and I'd like to see Tony Nese kind of getting a title match. He's been around long enough; he kind of deserves it. And like you said, he's been improving. We go into Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think he may have one of the better finishes for a cruiserweight as well, with that diving knee strike in the corner too.
Yeah, I like that. I forgot that was kind of his finish, so I'm sitting there going, okay, it's not the Gutbuster thing, but the other one that he did.
He went for his other finish that he used during the Cruiserweight Classic, which was that pump handle driver, but I think they're trying to get away from like head drops, so that's why he had been using the knee strike in the corner as a finish, the face wash knee strike.
Yeah, it also kind of suits him a lot better than, say, the pump handle slam thing. I think is fine if you're trying to promote that he's like a big power guy, but that's not just all he does, so I'm fine with that. Whereas, Dorado will do that screwdriver thing, and that also kind of suits him because he can't do every flying move because there's some that he does that they won't allow him to do. But it's, I'm happy that Tony Nese is starting to get better. It makes it more worth it when he's having matches that sort of feel like they matter.
Mm-hmm.
You continue the feud between Rich Swann and TJP here, with Rich Swann and Mustafa Ali playing WWE 2K17 with an AJ Styles and Kevin Owens match. And then, of course, TJP, the king of video games, comes in, sort of makes fun of Rich Swann for not looking too good there. And Rich Swann kind of lets him know, look, dude, you're a little obsessed with being better than me. So there's a challenge for a match next week between the two. Don't know if it settles anything. Probably won't. But it's a start.
Given the recent history of this show, no, it'll just build to an eventual blow-off stipulated match.
That happened like 5 months too late. You know, like Cedric Alexander and Davari. Thank God that thing finally ended.
Noam Dar, you mean?
Oh, yeah, Noam Dar, sorry. Just I'm half awake here, so you have to excuse me. And
Just to get through.
Sometimes you have to do that, though. You just got to push through, doing things. And hey, at least they delivered on Akira Tozawa and Ariya Davari. Another good match for these guys. Once again, Davari dedicating his match to another great Iranian wrestler or known person.
I believe the Titantron graphic said 1996 Olympic gold medalist freestyle wrestling.
Well, I'm glad that they keep finding different guys for this. It's interesting that they're letting him do all this research.
I'm waiting for them to let him let him devote a match to the Iron Sheik. That's all I want.
Yes, it needs to happen. Needs to happen, folks. Or have the Iron Sheik just show up.
And threaten to break his opponent's back and make them unbad.
I'd love to see him and Rusev have an interaction. Could you imagine?
You stole my move, you freak of jabroni.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Iron Sheik Rusev. Who had a better camel clutch? Let's go for it.
Coming soon to WWE All-Stars 2K18.
If only they would make an All-Stars 2, that would be amazing.
Oh, I love All-Stars. It's one of the few ones I still have from my 360.
Oh, All-Stars is so good. So good. Anyway, we're not talking video games here. So, yes.
As far as the match goes, I don't think it's quite up to the level of the 2 out of 3 falls match between Mustafa Ali and Drew Gulak. But do think I think it was better than the I Quit match between Cedric Alexander and Noam Dar, though. I have it around 3-ish stars for tonight. I don't like the fact that towards the end of the match, Tozawa, after selling the elbow and the shoulder beautifully throughout the match, completely stopped selling it to go into the finish. That kind of bothered me. I get the whole fighting spirit thing. I understand that. The whole fight through the pain, get through the pain in order to pick up the victory here. But when he's been putting a shellacking on your arm for the better part of about 10 minutes for a shoulder that's been hurt for almost a month now, a little bit more than just a lucha roll back to your feet on the Tozawa headbutt dive would have been nice to me.
And why did they take away the snap German as his finish? I like that much better than the senton, but...
Because somewhere somebody wanted to pay tribute to Dick Togo. In all seriousness with the German, maybe it's a case of they didn't want people getting head dropped with the Germans, plus the German is kind of Brock's thing.
Yeah, maybe, but it's just, I hate that he had a cool finish and they take it away to do a stupid senton. But it is what it is. You know, WWE does this quite a bit with taking finishes away from people, saying that they belong to others or just don't want them to do them. It's fine. When you do a side of suplex, though, it's like it's hard to tell me that you don't want head drops.
Well, not to mention, too, with Tozawa, his finishing back on the independent scene, for those of us that followed him back there, was that deadlift German, so that was kind of a tie-in to his old fans as well, that he still kept a variation of the German suplex as a finish originally.
Yeah, and then Neville kind of used that a lot in
I still
WWE.
think his... I think the senton is pretty, though. His senton is one of the better-looking ones in the company.
Well, yeah, certainly. Agree there. But still, it just kind of bothers me.
No, I agree with that. Maybe it'll be a case of he'll pull out the Snap German in big matches rather than just using it on a match-to-match basis.
That's true, he could. Yeah, like pay-per-view events and stuff like that, you can still see him do it. That's fair. I think also this match really just suffered from the crowd not caring.
Well, I think this entire episode of 205 Live suffered from the crowd not caring because of the fact that they had to follow styles.
They cared for the Metalik and Tony Nese, because Metalik kept doing dives and stuff. So, yeah, I think certainly, Tozawa winning, I don't think that was ever really in doubt. You're not going to have two heels going against each other here. So,
then especially not at
no, not at SummerSlam. So, you had Neville watching from backstage, and that's the end of 205 Live. So, sorry, my daughter just woke up and decided to go into her room.
Let the dog into the recording studio.
No,
I could hear
that was not a dog. That was her toy.
Oh. Well, then she has a toy that sounds like a dog.
Yes. She does.
Okay.
The dog did bark, I think, when she opened the door. So you heard him as well. But anyway, that's it for 205 Live for this week. You get a number one contender, so you set up the SummerSlam matches now. They can build it on Raw and on 205 going forward. You've continued the Gallagher and Kendrick feud. TJP Swann continued as well. And, whatever. We got to see Gran Metalik again, which I'm happy about. So, good show. Anything you want to add here?
If you want to see more Gran Metalik, make sure you watch this week's main event on Hulu. Emma's on there too, so it's also worth it for Emma.
Oh, yeah. Always great to see Emma doing something that's not sitting in backstage.
Emma.
Not going to disagree with you there. But certainly,
If by now you haven't heard enough of me, though, in addition to being back around for SmackDown and 205 Live every week here, with Paul on vacation this week, I will be joining Gary to handle NXT tomorrow night, possibly, or maybe Thursday. We're not sure which day the NXT will be handled, but I will be joining the guys for the W2M NXT review this week. In addition, myself, Paul, and Patrick Ketza, my co-host on Wrestling Unwrapped, will be bringing you the W2M coverage for the Mae Young Classic, starting with the bracketology special right after SummerSlam. So make sure you guys keep an eye out for that as well.
Well, there you go. Plenty of stuff coming from Mr. Broadhurst here. Will be cool to see him with Gary on the NXT, so make sure you check that out. And, of course, that Mae Young stuff is going to be awesome from those three guys. They are super knowledgeable about that stuff. So, as Gary and I said during the W2M Part 1, better them than us covering it. So, anyway, until next week, we talk more 205 Live. We'll see you later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.